Hey guys, welcome back to Wings of Fire First Impressions, where I share my thoughts and experiences as a first time Wings of Fire reader. Today we're going to be talking about the epic journey of one of, if not the most likable character in the fandom, from a statistical standpoint. And that character is none other than Kibli. Without further ado, let's get started with today's talk about Book 10, Darkness of Dragons. One thing I would like to talk about is how Kibli is a very good role model. I know this is probably why a majority of the fandom adores this character, but I still would like to briefly analyze his likable traits. So to start off, Kibli is smart, obviously. His decisions revolve around logic. No matter what you throw at this guy, in the face of disaster and emotional turmoil, he is always capable of keeping his gears turning and thinking critically. It's a valued skill in possibly every aspect in life. Work, school, relationships, everything. Due to this, he is poised to make morally good decisions. If he does make bad decisions, like summoning a sandstorm that wreaked havoc on Queen Thorn's palace, he treats it responsibly. In the epilogue, he was one of the dragons who helped clean up and repair the palace. And of course, Kibli's funny. Nothing needs to be said here, because who doesn't like a humorous character? So this dragon is smart, dependent, kind, responsible, funny, and nearly flawless. I'd like to say nearly, just in case any key details flew over my head. Pretty much the only flaw I can make of is selfishness, because he did want everyone to like him. However, I'm still a bit hazy on that. And who doesn't want to be liked by everyone? If that was a flaw, he fought it pretty well. And that was shown when Darkstalker offered him to become an animus. When he could make the world a better place with his own decisions as an ordinary dragon. This character is a good example of what we should be. He's a good example of what I should be. I want to be honest about this, I actually had a crush on Moonwatcher. Once I saw him, sail off with her, I was like, yeah, if I wanted someone like Moonwatcher, I must become more like Kibli. I'm glad that it happened, because it was a great motivation to become a better version of myself. Though I would be lying if I didn't say that it made me kind of sad. But yeah, anyways, Kibli. A very, very good role model for everyone. Another thing I would like to talk about is Prickle, the mad prisoner in the dungeons of Thorn's palace. I think it's a dragon worth noticing. She has got to be one of the unluckiest dragons in the novel series. Firstly, her sister sold her out, and then she gets locked away in a dungeon, which sounds bad enough. Then Prickle would wait for a couple of days for Queen Oasis to meet her, so she could clear her name. But then the worst happened. The queen died before she got to meet her. So she was imprisoned in that dungeon for a staggering 20 years. And she was locked in the darkest tunnel. So she was devoid of a major stimulus. Light. From a psychological standpoint, this would drive you insane. This is probably what drove her insane. Without light, you wouldn't be able to tell the time. What feels like days would in reality be years, or vice versa. You might say we can tell that it's night when we start to feel sleepy, but you could never be more wrong. If we were exposed to prolonged darkness, our sleep-wake cycle goes out of whack. Because light induces wakefulness. Without sunlight, you wouldn't know when to sleep or when to wake up. It genuinely scares me. If anything, it scared me as much as Prince Arctic's death. It's like straight out of a psychological horror film. I can't imagine how awful it must have been for Prickle to endure all of that for decades. The only things that accompanied her were the rattling of chains in her cell, in a lightless dungeon haunted by her own screams. One last thing I would like to analyze is animus magic, and their possessors, or rather how it affects them. Because the thing I notice about animus magic is that it doesn't. At least the power alone doesn't necessarily drain the soul of dragons in a supernatural manner, like how all the previous books portrayed it. Now I've already noticed this ever since I finished reading Darkstalker's book. But now that I've read Darkness of Dragons, it all became clear. Animus magic, or probably any superpower, does not break a character and turn them into a villain. It's the immoral actions they make that breaks them. Because with a power like animus magic, you can do whatever your mind wishes to command. In everyone, there is always a bad side. A demon that tempts them, a predator that lures you patiently into their jaws. If an animus dragon will allow their intrusive thoughts to win against them, then disaster. If one wins, then the rest would follow. That's how Darkstalker drained his own soul. That's how we drain our souls. Bad decisions that will lead to bad habits. So there is a psychological factor in animus magic. The one thing we probably should notice is that Darkstalker continued to do immoral things with his own power that has the potential to bring a bright future to Pyria. Just like he'd always wanted. Like how we, as humans, have the freedom to choose what we're going to do with both of our hands. We could use them to help others, or we could use them to hurt others. Being an animus dragon is like being human. Every decision we make can either build or break. Alright, that's pretty much all I want to say about Darkness of Dragons. I have reached the finish line for Arc 2, which probably means I have to say goodbye to most of our beloved Parian characters, including all my favorites. But I'm sure Arc 3 would also introduce me to new lovable characters from the Lost Continent. Anyways, with that being said, thank you all so much for stopping by, and I wish you all a good day. Peace.